welcome for thank you for tuning in today. I have an amazing, you can just tell by looking at her that this is going to be like such a fun interview. I have pink hair Jen today, and she is a weirdo wedding photographer. She's a conceptual artist and a speaker, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have her. So welcome, Jen, pink hair Jen.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad I found you. I love the name of your podcast too.
Thank you. So I know everybody, probably not everybody, a lot of people probably say, "Is your hair pink?" Can I
Oh,
just
it's one of those things that it doesn't have this very exciting story, but a friend of mine dyed her hair magenta one time and I looked at it and I was in the corporate world at the time. And I looked at it and I was like, I'd love to do that color. The red wasn't doing it. I did blonde for a while, but I felt like pink was something that was something I wanted to explore. And I asked my boss at the time if I could do highlights. And I showed up the next day with half of my head in pink. It was so much fun to just start on this journey. And then so now it's become part of my brand by accident.
yeah.
So, like here we are 17 years later and I still have the pink hair.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I was looking at your website, and I think your story and your message today is going to really be impactful for people who not only entrepreneurs who are trying to like figure out, how to launch their business and like what path they should take and if they should just go like a cookie cutter way or if they should just like carve out their own path, right? And also
Yeah.
people who just in general are just they don't really know what to do with their life, not necessarily entrepreneurship, but it's like, should I just follow in the footsteps of people that I'm surrounded by? So I think your story is going to be awesome. So I have to ask you, how did you discover this like micro niche? Like, how did you discover that this was your path?
This is the best because this is one of my favorite topics now because I'm living it and breathing it. But during the pandemic, when everything shut down, I was ready to go. Like in 2019, I was ready to go. For whatever reason, I was just ready. And at that point, I had like an almost 3-year-old kid, and I'm married for lots of years. But when the pandemic hit and we all had to shut down and we couldn't, as photographers, we're heavily involved with people. We're heavily involved in close contact with people at events and weddings and you name it. And we couldn't go out and see each other and we couldn't go out and work.
Yeah.
And then somehow I worked through the grief and loss aspect of all of that. And then into the summer of 2020, I discovered that there was a group of people I've already been working with. I just didn't give them a name. And so I felt like in my fine art community, we already call ourselves weirdos. And then I thought to myself, if I'm going to go into the wedding industry, and mind you, I've been in the wedding industry for a long time, but I didn't go into the wedding industry.
Okay.
I was too bashful about what I had to offer. And now when I came up with Weirdo Weddings in the summer of 2020, I was like, well, now I have no choice. I've got to show up for them. I got to show up for this group of people that resonate with that. And I had so many groups that we were talking in. I had online groups, virtual groups, right? We were all discussing business. We never gave up on our businesses. So I felt like that helped propel me into this new brand too, is that I was around people who were very forward thinking and they weren't giving up. And I think it really helped to have that community when we were in need of each other. And so, yeah, it came about in the worst time available to us, but it was also, if you were so inclined to take the opportunity to have your most creative moment, that was it for me when I had to shut everything down and really be still.
Mhm.
And none of us like to be still. I think there's a lot of people, we still haven't figured out how to balance busyness with stillness. And so, or I say balance, like you incorporate life into your life, not just work life, but have life. So I figured that, that just came about at the most impactful time of my life. And so,
Hey there, feel like something's holding you back from your best life? What if you could discover your secret weapon for personal growth in less than 5 minutes? Introducing the Discover Your Personal Growth Superpower Quiz. It's your key to unlocking hidden strengths, identifying your unique motivators, and supercharging your success. Are you a determined overcomer, a purposeful planner, or maybe an authentic explorer? Don't let another day slip by feeling unfulfilled. Head to angelawadley.com and take the quiz. Don't be the only one who doesn't know their superpower. Discover it now.
And just for everybody listening and watching here, this is like not an overnight thing. This has been building for years and years, and I just didn't know my next step. I didn't know what's my next assignment or purpose in this photography world, because you can go a gazillion different ways. And as most of y'all probably have started, you started off doing everything because you didn't know what you wanted to do. So when you get to a place in your life and business where you can start focusing in on the things you actually want to do, that's where your happiness lies, honestly, like your fulfillment and the things that you're really passionate about that you don't get tired of doing.
Yeah.
That's kind of where, like, that's where my path led me, is I just walked into it. I walked into it because it was already waiting for me.
Yeah.
And now I have taken it, and it's almost 4 years old now.
That's awesome. So that's amazing advice. And I'm thinking that like somebody who's thinking, okay, so, but what was that first step?
Uh-huh.
But what was that first step? And how did you determine that was the first step? And were you nervous about it? Or were you just like, I can just tell this is it, I'm just going to go?
I gotta be honest, everybody, the first step that I did is as soon as I said it out loud, I bought the domain 30 minutes later. I mean, I was so sure about this is for me, and it was time, that I didn't waste any time. Do you know how like many people will just sit on something? I'm not one of those people that I don't want to think about forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
But when something feels in your gut, it feels good, it feels right, it feels like you're bringing something to the world. It feels like you're bringing your business and yourself at the same time to the world. I didn't waste any time. I was like, I think I'm ready for this. I know I'm ready for this. And I went out and bought the domain right away because I didn't even know what I was going to do. I was in the middle of website changes too. I was like, I hate my website. I need to do something else. So I made immediate website changes. And so now I have a website I'm much more happy with, that I can at any time change.
Yeah.
But like that was my first step, is I had the name, I claimed the name,
Mhm.
and then I went and bought the domain.
I love it. So
Yeah.
now, for those thinking, oh, so she bought a domain and she was getting her website ready, did
Yeah.
you wait to get your website completed and finalized to perfection before you started? Or did you just still put yourself out there?
I'm an artist, y'all. I am of the belief that I don't have to have it perfect.
Yes.
I believe in the process. I believe if you get a landing page up that says who you are and what you do and how you serve others, you don't need to go much further than that. You can always add later. You can always change your copy. You can always change your images. As a photographer, I'm gonna always change my images because my brand has grown, right? There's people that are gonna fall under one umbrella for Weirdo Weddings than they would Pink Light Images, or my other multiple brands that I've been working with for years. But no, I don't. I like having things polished, but not perfect. Like there's no way. Again, I was ready. I had content. I was ready to go and just embrace this. And then I started talking about it. Get offline and start talking about it. I was sharing with people, and we were still doing like very, very few events towards the end of the year, right? And I was doing these elopements out in the middle of the forests or whatever because we had plenty of space to go do it. And so I just started talking to them about it. I said, this is my new brand, and I want to let you know that y'all are my first weddings for this new brand. And I just, there's that confidence that comes with something you've stepped into.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, you don't shy away from talking about it. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
I love that. So remember, because I know that's so easy to get stumped by all these things you feel you have to have in place. Listen to her story. You don't
Yeah.
have to have everything. Perfection does not exist, first of all, but you don't
Yeah.
have to have everything perfect to start. You feel it, take an action step like she did, grab your domain name. You don't have to have a perfect website.
Get your
Promise.
socials. Get your socials going. If nobody's got the name, go get it.
Yeah. And just do it. Action step, baby step, baby step. And look at her now. So this is so inspirational. I love it. So I wanted to ask, like, so you started this new, venture.
Yeah.
How was your first year compared to like all your years prior? How was your first year doing this?
And here's another thing they may not tell you about when you're getting hyper-focused niche is you want to be able to speak to those people. So you're wanting to have images that speak to those people. You want to have the words that speak to those people. So that first year, and this is one of my keynote topics that I talk about, is how 19 styled shoots transformed my career. Because I didn't have what I felt was like enough content to draw the people that I wanted to work with. So when you set up styled shoots, it's basically, think of it as almost a fake wedding, but for me, I end up using real couples and real people. So I was able to showcase different styles, themes, people, representation, diversity, LGBTQ, everybody that I could think of that I want to work with to magnetize to me
Yeah.
is what I did that first year. And it was hard work, I do have to tell you. That first year of business, not only are you working hard on your new whatever you've started, but then you have all the doubts and fears that come up and say, did you really make a good choice? Like, did you really, like, are you just a little off your rocker a little bit because you did this thing and it doesn't make sense and the phone's not ringing yet and you're trying to figure out what to do with your life in that first year? But the whole thing is that whatever you set to do in that first year, follow through with it, whether or not the phone rings, whether or not your calendar fills up, whether or not anybody gets it and gives you that look of like, I don't get it. I've had that happen before where people are like, we just don't get it. We love you, but we don't get it. And I'm like, my people will.
Yeah.
The people that want to work with me will get it and they will connect with me and they will want to work with me just for me being me.
I
And
love
I
that.
think that's the struggle in those first couple of years, right? You're still you're confident, but you're also a little shaky.
Yeah.
And I
But you
think
get
that's okay. I think that's part of, you might as well just pay the dues, right? You can't
yeah.
skip it. And I tell people a lot, you can't skip this part of business.
Yeah.
You can't skip the uncertainty, the unknown factors, and all the things that come with running a business. You can't skip all of those emotional moments, the crying, the frustrations, trying to find coworkers in your life, right? Like most of us solopreneurs don't have traditional coworkers. And so we're always looking at who can we connect with in our industries to say, I'm here, I'm ready to serve, this is my business. But yeah, that first couple of years was me trying to figure out, first of all, what do my clients look like? And then who do I need to connect with in my industry to do that? To
Yeah.
to make myself known. Because I think I've been hiding for so long. I was like, well, who do I need to meet? I don't even know who I need to meet anymore, right? Like it's like
Wow.
gotta be social. Oh my gosh.
I know, right? How uncomfortable. Yeah. So I think that's also something powerful in what you just said,
Yeah,
because it's a reminder that it's okay to not feel confident 100% of the time. The
yeah,
whole thing is about moving past that and continuing to believe in yourself and believe in your path, which it sounds like what you did, right? You had your, uncertain moments, but you're like, I'm still doing it. My people will find me. I still believe in what I need to be doing because it feels right. So
yeah.
it's
And I'm on year 4 and I still have moments. You still have moments. You're gonna have moments, whether you're doing this for 2 years or 20.
yeah,
I think some people are just so secure in who they are. They don't have identity crisis half the time. But some of us who I'm going to be real about, sometimes I question myself, and that's fine.
yeah,
Ask those questions. I think every 3 months we should be asking ourselves questions about decisions that we've made or the things that we've committed to that maybe we shouldn't have committed to.
mhm,
These things are good for you to not just be on the well, keep it easy road. It's sometimes you're in the jungle chopping the trees down. And that's why I talk about that a lot, because pathways, when you're an artist and you have visual representations of what your paths could look like, I talk about those paved roads that are already paved that nobody has to worry about. It's already there. You just take the format and you go do it. Well,
mhm,
what if you're trying to do something new? It's not always laid out. It's not, sometimes it's a gravel road, sometimes it's bare dirt. Sometimes it's a staircase going down into the ocean where you're just like going to get hit by the waves a couple of times.
mhm,
I like to think of it as you need to discover your own path and what that looks like for you. Now, if it is a paved path, go for it. It's a lot easier than trying to carve your own. But I think they all have valid ways that get us to where we need to go. Not everybody has the same exact path, and that's what I love about this journey is that mine is mine, yours is yours, but let's support each other and understand that not everybody's walking the easier path. Some of us are walking a little bit harder and a little bit unknown and sometimes a little dark, you know. They don't always tell you how far the flashlight goes out in the dark forest, you know. It only goes out so far and you can't see that far ahead sometimes. And sometimes that's scary. And I think that's part of this journey too, is that there's gonna be unknown factors. There's also gonna be surprises. I have found so many cool surprises start happening lately that I'm like, oh my gosh, my hard work is paying off. My voice being out there is starting to pay off, where people are finding me. And it's like, yay, because I can't be everywhere,
Mhm.
everything, everywhere all at once, like the
Yeah.
movie. You know, I can't be in every timeline and every person.
Yeah. And when you feel that yay, you're like, okay, that stuff was worth it. This yay feels amazing. That stuff was
Yeah,
worth
all
it.
that first year investment, I still go back into those. And I'm actually doing another talk later this month or late next month, actually, going back into those styled shoots. And I don't want to ever forget where I came from. I don't want to ever forget how hard it was. I don't, and it's still, you know, difficult sometimes, but not as hard as that first year of how do I make this work? What am I doing? And asking these questions. And
Yeah.
then having my people, my wedding industry people challenge me on things like, ask me questions and make me think about things that I'm doing too. Like, you know, what am I going to do that's different? Who am I? Who am I? Last year, I even thought to myself, who am I and why am I here? Like, this is a genuine moment where I really needed to have some answers on what am I doing here?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely important and impactful. What
Yes.
um so if you have to think of like the hardest lesson that you
Hmm.
faced, because you know you went through a lot. You think about the hardest lesson, what would that be?
Um, and I think this comes to top of mind because I always think about how lonely it can be. Um, and recognizing that that's been the hardest thing is that sometimes this is a solopreneur thing and you can feel very alone. And so that was something that it's a continuing lesson, but it's a big lesson whenever you leap out into your business in general. 17 years ago, when I decided to leave the corporate world and become a business owner, that in itself, it was a scary moment. And it's a big lesson to realize that you are your own manager. You are your own marketing. I mean, everything about this is the hardest lesson because you are you. And the biggest thing that you need to learn is that you have got to represent you.
Yeah.
And you can't always depend on everybody else to do it. And I know that sounds really silly, but it's very true. And the fact that if you don't show up for your people, they're not going to know you exist.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big lesson that I'm learning and relearning and just learning how to live in that, being okay with who I am and what I offer the world and going out and doing it, not just talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I also think that even for the ones who are still like in corporate America, you have a job and
yeah,
you're still trying to launch something on the side, you can still feel alone that way too, even if you're surrounded by
100%.
8 hours a day, because they're doing one thing, they're focused on, corporate or doing a job, and you have a different mindset that you're working on. So that can even make you feel even more alone. So just like Jen was saying, it's so important with who you surround yourself with and finding people that are, trying to carve out their path, like, like she did, just to inspire you so you don't feel like are by yourself, because that can lead you to maybe giving up, and you shouldn't.
Yeah, and I will tell the folks that if y'all are listening and you're still doing your full-time job and doing something on the side, there is no shame in that. And if you need to stay there for a long time, please do it. Because not everybody's meant to do some of these things full time as a business owner. I think so many of us are capable of many different things, and you should just lean into where you need to be right now in this season, because if you do something too soon, you could just like completely mess yourself up. If you wait too long, then you end up complaining about the things that you didn't do, or you want to do, and you just end up talking about it more than walking it. So I would say that find out where you are right now, if you're doing both, because I did both for a while too. I did at least for a couple of years. And actually, I got my best ideas at my full-time job because I was always daydreaming about my business. Or any of the art I was doing, I was always taking notes all day long. And so if you find yourself, if you're in your corporate world right now and you're spending your 6 to 8 hours a day, whether you're virtual or in the office, and you get these amazing ideas, do not forget to write them down and keep them, because these things will take you into your next season, whatever that might be.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Completely agree. And then
Yeah.
just do like a mindset shift and just say like, you know what? My job is funding my dream right now. Maybe
Yes.
my dream full time at some point, but for right now, it's funding it. So yeah,
And you can get a lot done when you're doing the two. You really can. Like, especially, well, if you're in photography or anything that requires gear, yes, it's like it's great to have those options. And then you have other businesses that they just want to do like design work or artistic work, or other things that people do, like, crocheting on the side. Like there's a whole bunch of different things you can do creatively that give you that fulfillment, that you don't have to do full time, but it's so nice to have that option if you do have the thing that does pay the bills and you're happy with it and you're not stressed out and burned out. And then you have your little thing on the side. It just gives you joy, that little happiness.
yeah, I so agree. So I want to thank you so much for being with me today. Like I said, I love your mission and your creativity and your
Oh,
spunk and your bravery, all that.
thank
Um,
you.
do you want to ask you one final question? So it doesn't have to be related to what we spoke about today, but if you can think about the one best piece of advice you could give another woman about anything in general, what would it be?
Get out of your head and go do it. I think the things that are sitting in your head, you're just giving yourself permission to just sit there and never be happy or never be fulfilled. And you think this is all you have, when actually there's so much more inside of you that you can access right now. So get out of your head and go do the thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is, but if it's in you, you need to go do it.
I love that. Take Pink Hair Jen's advice.
Yes, I'm just saying, I see so many people that just sit on it, and they sit on it for 9 years and they haven't done it yet. I'm like, what are you waiting for? I know timing is great, but what are you really waiting for? Because if it's fear, then you're just going to have to get over it. It's always going to be there.
Yeah, because regret sucks.
You're going to have to just walk through it. Just going to get, that's another piece of advice. Just keep walking through it.
Exactly. Awesome. On that note, thank you so much for being with us and have a great one. Bye, everyone.